Hey there, my name's Drew Brashler, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you about the brand new Waves Soundgrid Card for the Behringer Wing. And I'm here with my Behringer Wing Compact and the Waves, and we're going to get it set up today. Now, if you're brand new to my channel, I'm all about helping you feel more confident with your production gear no matter where you're starting from. Also, if you are wanting to get some more tips and tricks from me weekly, you can head over to audiotoolkit.co and sign up for my newsletter that comes out weekly with some of my favorite tips and tricks. But let's go ahead and dive in. Now, the Behringer Wing Compact was released a few weeks ago, and I have the Behringer Waves Soundgrid Card that it's installed internally on my console. Now, when this actually does get listed on Sweetwater and Guitar Center, I will be updating the links in this video so you can find that Waves Soundgrid Card. But this does come installed from the factory in your Behringer Wing if you choose to have it. So this is an extra add-on that you can have, but in this case, let's go ahead and get this thing set up. Now, the Behringer Wing has an internal module inside the board, which gives you 64 by 64 channels, so 64 in, 64 out on the internal module. Now, in a different video, I was talking about my Dante card and how I had that in the internal module, and I was able to get 64 by 64 of Dante on that module over the data ports that are on the back of the Behringer Wing. Now, with this Waves Soundgrid Card, it works the same way. It's an audio over IP module that we install inside the board, and then it utilizes the two network ports on the back of the Behringer Wing for all the connectivity with Waves Soundgrid. And there are two network configurations that you can have with the Behringer Wing with the Waves Soundgrid Card. And if you go to Setup, and in general, we can choose to have the two ports be separated or the two ports be switched. Now, the benefit of having them switched is I can actually set up a full SoundGrid network without a network switch. So that means that I can plug in my SoundGrid server into the card and my laptop into the card and give myself full control over the plugins and have my Waves Soundgrid server on those two ports, which is fantastic. Now, the great thing about the module is it does not interfere with the external card. So we have the external card, which by default, the Wing ships with the Wing Live card, which gives you the recording ability to record 64 channels to 2 SD cards. And the great thing about this is you can record all of your channels to the Wing Live card and have all of your Waves Soundgrid processing happening at the same time, which is great. And which also means that I can play back the channels from the Wing Live card and get that back into my console and still be able to have all of my Waves processing on my channels. So let's actually get the connections going here. So on the back of my board, I'm connecting two cables into here. One is going to go to my Waves Soundgrid server, and the other one is going to go to my laptop. Now, with a Waves Soundgrid network, because this is a question that I get a lot, does this work with Waves SuperRack Performer? And the answer is no. They are completely separate things. So Waves Soundgrid and Waves SuperRack Performer are two separate things. So we have Waves SuperRack Soundgrid, which requires a Waves Soundgrid card for processing on your Wing, and a Waves server for SoundGrid, and a computer with Waves SuperRack SoundGrid with a license on that. So then that is a full SoundGrid setup. The other option is Waves SuperRack Performer. Now, Waves SuperRack Performer, very easy. You can utilize the USB, you can plug it into your computer, the program is cheaper, and then you can instantly have VST plugins on your channels. Now, the downside of SuperRack Performer on the USB and your laptop is that there's added latency. So the latency is because of the computer having to have a buffer size, and the lower you get that buffer, the faster the latency, but the more processor heavy it is for the computer. Now, Waves Soundgrid allows us to have very, very, very low latency with our plugins and our processing. And so the actual chain between my Wing and the server and back is less than a millisecond. Whereas my latency with using a Waves SuperRack performer would be around in the 10 milliseconds, depending on our buffer size. Now, once we have that set up, we need to go over to Waves SuperRack Soundgrid and actually do a little bit of setup here. So I have Waves SuperRack open, and I have my setup tab open here. Now, I need to go and select my network port that I have running for this computer on the Waves Soundgrid network, which is my Ethernet 5. Now, I have right here, I need to press this button and go to my network devices, and it will see that I have a Wing available. So all I have to do is just go ahead and select that. And so this is getting the I/O from my Wing to my server program, allowing me to actually process plugins with this Wing. Now, the actual processing happens over on a server. So I'm going to drop open this server, and I'm going to select my SoundGrid Server 1. And so at this point, now that I have an I/O device and a server selected, I have a full SoundGrid network up and running. And I can verify that by looking up here in our green lights. So we see that we have our server, our I/O. This is running at 48 kilohertz, which is what my console is running at, and the audio is passing. Now, if any reason this audio was red, then that means that you are not passing audio and there is a problem with the SoundGrid network and you need to figure out why. But in this case, we have our I/O device with our Behringer Wing and our server. And so we can hop over to our overview and we can see that we have all of our racks here. And I have the ability of adding in an input. So for instance, I can go and add in input 1 coming from our card, and this is working. But we actually need to do some routing inside of our Behringer Wing. Now, with our Behringer Wing, we have a couple different ways that we can do our routing. There is directly from the input going to the module, and then from the module, then it can go to the channel. That is one way. And so to set that up, what we would need to do is we'd go to routing. We would then go and find where our processing is coming from. So let's go to sources, and I know that I have all of my processing coming in on the local in, meaning that all of my microphones are being plugged into the local in on my console. And so we can see that if I picked up this microphone, check 1, 2, we can see that I have signal here. Now, if I was wanting to run all of my channels into Waves first and then back to the channels, I can do that by going to my outputs, then going over to my module, which is WSG, and I can go and simply select my first one, press unlock, go to where I have my inputs coming in from, and I can start routing my inputs. Just like that. And so we can see that with this microphone, I am going to be sending to my Waves Soundgrid on the output. Now, if I go over to my Waves SuperRack, I can go and find my mono input, and this is going to be on 17. And I'm going to change the output to be back on 17 here. So at this point, when I tap this microphone, we can see that I have signal going into Waves. And now that I have 17 selected in SuperRack, what I can do is I can go see and talk into this microphone and see that I actually have signal going on here. But if I mute this, it doesn't actually mute it into the board because my channel itself is still coming in from my local 17. And so I'm going to now need to change this channel to be selected from my Waves card. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my preamp and choose my alternate input and have this coming in from my Waves Soundgrid and have this come from 17. And I can press close. And at this point, check 1, 2, we can see that I have no signal on my channel, and that is because this is muted. And so if I unmute this, now I have a full sound path going from my microphone into my input, which is local 17. It's then being sent to my Waves Soundgrid card here on 17. It's being processed by Waves and then being sent back to my channel because my channel's input is coming in from my module 17, which is where my Waves Soundgrid card is. And so at this point, I can go in and start adding in a bunch of plugins. So I could go in and add a F6 RTA. And so we can go ahead and double click into this and see that I have signal here. Check 1, 2, check 1, 2. And if I was wanting to make my sound check 1, 2, so I can go and edit any of this as I want to. Now, the great thing about using the alternate input is I can go into my setup and go to audio, and I can change all of my channels being from main to alternate if I want to. Now, if I was wanting to finish out my routing here for all my channels, I would go to channels, I would then go alt, and then with my Waves Soundgrid source group selected here, I would go up to my first channel, press auto +1, go to my Waves Soundgrid card, and now I can go ahead and route these. Now, if we come across a channel that is stereo, for instance, my overhead 7 and 8, I will need to configure this as a stereo return. So to do that, I would need to go to sources, and right here on my mod 7 and 8, I would need to make that stereo. And then I can go back to my channels, select here with my alternate still selected, and then select that. There's my bass guitar, acoustic. Electric is also going to be a stereo, so I would need to go back to my sources and make 11 and 12 stereo. And I can also do that for keys on 13 and 14. Make that stereo, and then I can go back and finish out my routing here. So I can go guitar and boom, boom. And my tracks is mono for this instance. We got click and vocal 1, 2, 3, 4. We got podium and we got 2 handhelds. So here we go with that. So all of that is now routed here. So now what I can do is I can just simply go and select to my setup, and I can change between all of my inputs being on my main or my alt. And if we want to change whether or not we have all of our inputs doing that, we can go ahead and just take out the rest of the inputs that aren't using waves. We can press close, and then boom. Now we have just 1 through 24 doing our input select. Now the other way of doing this is a external plugin effect. So I can go to my effects section, and I can press this open, and I can go external. Now with this, I'm going to go to my local 1, and I'm going to make sure this is on main, and I'm going to go to my insert on my post insert point, and I'm going to select this effects processor. Now, this allows me to put my Waves Soundgrid processing at any point in my channel that I want to. So in this case, I'm going to be putting this post fader, but I could also put this on the pre-fader insert point, and then I could go and adjust where I want this insert to be. Just like that. But in this case, I'm going to be utilizing some auto-tune on this mic, and so I'm going to have it on my post fader. That way I can have the most processing done dynamics-wise and get a nice full volume out of this signal before it hits auto-tune. So with this external effect on the wing, I'm able to place my waves processing on my channel anywhere in the channel that I want to. It doesn't have to be directly off the input. So I can go ahead and move this insert around. So if I put my FX9 here, I could go and adjust where I want this effects moved to in my channel strip. So I could have it before my gate, or after my gate before my EQ, or after my EQ before compression, or after compression, or because I like to have my auto tune selected on my post fader, I'm going to just go ahead and set this to post fader. So here, I'm going to select this to be mono, and then I need to set my send of this plugin to go to my Waves module. And so in this case, I'm going to go to my outputs, I'm going to go to my Waves Soundgrid, and let's just have fun and do this on 33. So I'm going to go and find my effects sends, and this is coming on my effects send 9, so I'm just going to go ahead and select that. So we can see that I have on 33, I am sending signal. So if I go back to my Waves SuperRack here, I'm going to go and select my mono input 33. And so now if I tap this, we can see that I have signal going to Waves. And so I want to now bring my channel back from Waves into that effects plugin. So if I go back here, I can go and select my return, and this is going to be coming from Waves Soundgrid, mod 33. And I can press close. And at this point, now I have processing on this that I can uninsert or insert as I want to. So now I could go and add in some tune. And I can go ahead and open this up, give myself some T-Pain here, and I will mute my microphone so you guys can hear this the entire way. Ooh. So now I have this microphone coming directly off the input, going into my Waves if I want it to, which is my alternate input option. The other option is doing it this way, where we are using our external effect type in our effects rack. And this way, I can actually insert this processing anywhere in the channel that I want to. And if I wanted to have that turned off for a moment during a song, I would just go ahead and press that off. Now, these are two great ways of getting Waves processing on our channels. Now, the great thing about this Waves Soundgrid module is it's 64 channels. So we have 64 channels of coming out to our laptop with our SuperRack, and then 64 channels coming back into our console. Now, that is amazing. I am very excited about this console, and I am very excited about this Waves processing that we can have on the console. Now, I am planning on releasing a bunch of more content about Waves and how I utilize it in my show files. But if you do happen to have any questions on this video, pop down in the comment section and leave a comment down there. If there's any videos that you're hoping that I would make on Waves Soundgrid, on the Wing Compact, anything like that, make sure to pop that down in the comment section down below, as I'm always reading through those comments to find videos that are going to be helpful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my website at drewbrashler.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day.